allow others join us for this meeting. So I think we're on the safe side to start today's um, program. All right, great. All right, now I would want us to start on these notes, right? I'm going to present my screen now, and I want us to start on this note. And the note I want us to start um, on is I want everyone to share in one word their expectation for this meeting, right? Maybe maximum 2 words, but I'd like to know what your expectations are for this meeting. I'd like to know what your expectations are. It's very important, right? So now, how are we going to do that? We'll use a very simple platform, right? We'll use a very simple platform, nothing too difficult to get a hang of. I just need you to minimize the Zoom application that you are using for this call presently and open up your browser, just about any browser that you have on your phone, whether it's the Safari or Google Chrome, or even the default browser that comes, your internet browser that comes with, pretty much every phone. Right? I need you to open that browser up, and the moment that is open up, I need you to go to menti.com. Allow me a few seconds on my end for this to come up. But once it does come up, we should be good to go. Um, okay, forgive me. There's just a little bit of glitch on my device here. Uh, just allow me switch my network. I think um, there's a sort of network issue on my end. Allow me quickly switch that, and we should be the good experience should be back. I must also mention, I must mention that um, it rained in some parts of Lagos today. So for all others who also experienced the rain, so just have that as as a sort of fail proof at the back of your mind that the network may not be so great, um, but would make best use of the time, the experience, the network, whatever coverage that we do have. All right, for as many that can see my screen, can you please give me a feedback if you can see the screen that I am presenting? Please leave me a feedback in the comment section, just so I'm sure that my screen is visible to all from my end. That feedback would be very helpful for me. Um, Perhaps maybe not just only if you can see me. If you can see me, you can hear me clearly. That would be great to know, so that I can Yes, it is visible. All right, thank you. The screen is black. Yes. Okay, all right. I must apologize. The screen is black because of the network issues, right? But I think at this point, so that we don't further exhaust the little time that we have today. Now, maybe let's do this in the comment section of Zoom instead, right? Just let me know, right, in one word or maximum 2 words, what your expectations are from this meeting, right? In one word. It would be nice that you think about it, really. You're going to spend the next 2 hours, maybe a little more, and you're going to do this for the next 3 days, right? What are your expectations, right? What is that one thing that you want to beat your chest to that you've achieved in this next 3 days? And in total, say about 6 to 8 or 10 hours of training, right? You can please share that in the comment section in one, maximum 2 words, right? Maximum 2 words, right? Just share that and we'll take a look at it, right? I can almost assume that there may be consensus amongst us, even though we're joining from different parts of the world, right? There may be consensus amongst us as to why we are here, right? As to why we are here. And you'll be amazed. In those consensus, you would most likely find people who are like-minded, right? You may also find people who you may want to consider running this race alongside, right? You may also find people who may serve as inspiration for you, right? All right, so I can see someone says better experience. That's what um, their expectations are. Proficient and exposed, right? That's another good one, right? Mr. Paul Oguns wants to be proficient, I would assume, in the area of STEM, and also exposed to new trends, right? Effective and improved, right? I believe that Mr. Amos maybe would have been practicing STEM, and now he wants to look at ways to be even more effective in teaching STEM, delivering STEM across, the different subject, whatever subject it is that he's teaching, as the case may be, right? I have gaining new things, right? Gaining new things. I'm not sure who that is, but the name says Infinix, right? But whoever that is, Miss Amos, pardon me, right? Whoever that is, the person is here to gain new things, new insights, new knowledge, new perspective to things, right? In between these sessions, we would leave a few minutes for us to, explore our breakout rooms and get to meet each other, right? Get to share 1 or 2 things and network, right? My expectation is to learn more about them and how I can integrate it in my teaching to bring about enhanced academic performance to learners. Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, having gone through a few of these expectations, having gone through a few of them, let me just quickly introduce myself for as many people who are on here who perhaps haven't met me before now, right? My name is Solomon Ijishakin, and I'm a Microsoft Innovative Educator and Trainer, right? Train teachers, school leaders, schools, new, advancement in education, educational practices, right? I have vast IT experience also, and I'm a curriculum specialist, right? I've taken a deep dive into several curriculums, right? I've been privileged to also work on single-handedly and also to help out forging curriculums for several schools, redesigning their curriculums. Right? Now, I'm going to put all of these things aside. And perhaps, like I said in that meeting, and like I always like to say in almost every meeting, is that all of these things, I don't feel that they capture the essence of who I am, right? I like to describe myself as a concerned educator, right? A concerned educator. And this is why I say so. You would soon find that everything you are about to learn, um, you would it's one thing to learn them, it's another thing to put them in practice, to be deliberate about practicing it, right? You will soon see, right? When you are done with this 2 hour session today and, the entire recap of the program in 3 days, right? It's one thing to, gather all of those knowledge. It's another to put them in practice, except you are a concerned educator. And by concerned educator, I mean someone who is passionate about um, the fact that the world, if I break that world down, if the nation Nigeria must change, then it must start from the educational sector, right? Um, if you understand that and you are passionate about that, then you are also, like myself, a concerned educator. And I think that's how I best describe myself. It is that concern that I have to see a change that drives me to look at new practices, how to infuse new concepts, how to dish out new teaching methodologies, how to perfect teaching strategies, um, uh, and so on and so forth. Those are what motivates me, right, in this, in what I do and in anything that, I find myself doing in the educational space. All right, so let me quickly run through some of the things that we'll be learning while we are together in this meeting, right? We're going to offer intensive professional development. For those of you who said you want to enhance your teaching skill, you want to learn new things, gather new information, best practices and all of that, this is the place for that, right? Whether or not you're a current educator, you've been teaching for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever the case may be, or you're an aspiring educator, maybe you're a youth corper, um, or you want to transition from whatever field you are in or you were in, you want to transition into education, right? This is a good ground. This is a good space for you to be in, to learn and to grab all of the skills that you will need, that motivation, that feel that you need to start. Another thing that we're going to do um, during this entire 3 days is we won't be having the in-person, the physical meeting, right? But so all of our 3 days meeting will be virtual, and it will just help bring us to speed as to um, um, all of the things that we couldn't really cover in the past, right? So we would have these online sessions and it will be facilitated by myself, Mr. Solomon. Another important thing I should also mention is that these meetings will offer us an opportunity to collaborate, network, meet with people, share ideas, share plans that you have, and all of the beautiful things, right? It's a community, right, that we are trying to build. It's a community, right, that we're trying to build. And me, right, in just the little meeting that we had in for the previous cohort, as many that were able to join, it's been about 2, 3 weeks, I guess, about 2 or 3 weeks thereabout. And I'm already working with people. I had people who reached out who about 2 or 3 of them were already doing something, right? And for others, we're planning, and so on and so forth. So it's a beautiful community. I've had people who have reached out to me saying that, okay, this is what I'm, thinking about doing. How do I implement? How do I, go about it? And we've been able to, exchange ideas, right? I've learned 1 or 2 things from these people also, I must say, right? You'll be amazed at the people that are on this call. Right? They may just be that extra spice that you need for whatever project you're handling or for that next level that you're desiring. And then lastly, for this program, right, the goal is to equip everyone, right, to become STEM educators. I must say this is not the end of the journey, right? The journey still, excuse me, the journey still extends a bit further, right? Because when you are done with, with the knowledge of STEM, then you need to start thinking about STEAM. How do I integrate the extra arts, right, into this concept of STEM and project-based learning, right? That will be the final goal or the resting place, right? Tentatively until things change. Ideas are constantly being redeveloped and shared, right? Until that time, then the STEAM platform would be a good spot for you to be comfortable for a while, right? Um, that's pretty much everything that we're going to cover for the entire 3-day session, right? We're going to start today with introduction again. For those who have been in this meeting before, we're going to introduce STEM, PBL. We're going to go through the importance of STEM, the core areas of the STEM pillars. That's the science, technology, engineering, and math. We're going to look at the skills that are developed through STEM. How do you integrate PBL into STEM? The benefit of STEM, as the case may be. And as I am doing all of this, right, I'm going to be sharing several examples that you can relate with, examples that would inspire you yourself, right? Give this the best attention that you can, and I promise that this won't be, it won't be a waste of your time, right? We'll try to make every minute count. So, having said that, the first place we're going to start with, the first position we're going to take now is what is STEM, right? What is STEM, right? I would usually love to, throw this question to the audience, to the participants, right? So please let me know what you think STEM is, right? What do you think STEM is? If you've heard that word before, right, what do you think STEM is? Now, for some of us who joined the meetings that we've had before, you should already have, a lot of experience or insight on this, topic, STEM. So please let me know what you think STEM is. Either you joined us before, you're an aspiring educator, you want to transition into the STEM field, right? Let me know what you think STEM is. So while some of us are typing that response, Mr. Bola is asking if you'll be provided with the replay. Yes, I believe you will be provided with the replay. I am also at the moment, just the moment your question came in, I'm also going to check through YouTube to find out if this meeting is also being streamed, right? I know that we streamed all of the previous classes. So pending while Zoom compiles the entire recording and it is shared, you can of course rewatch the YouTube live stream again as many times as you want. You can pause, you can follow through things that you may have missed. Okay, so presently this is not being streamed, right? This is not being streamed at the moment. But in any case, the meeting is being recorded. It can be shared if you want it to be shared, right? I just thought to just put that out there for those who may want to go back to the previous things. Oh, so STEM is an interdisciplinary approach that encompasses 4 disciplines, right? Mrs. Amos, as mentioned, it's an acronym. So the disciplines Mrs. Afsa is referring to is the acronym above that says science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? These are not off in any way, shape, or form, right? They are not off, right? It's an interdisciplinary approach, right? Okay, let me take this last one. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are STEM approach to learning, or is the approach to learning that integrates these four disciplines and promotes hands-on problem solving, critical thinking skills, preparing students for innovative careers. Love that approach. STEM stands for science, engineering, and mathematics, and I believe it's a kind of teaching method that brings learning to life. I must applaud all of these contributions, right? It's not in any way, shape, or form off, right? We are right about the fact that it encompasses four core pillars, right? There are four subject pillars that STEM encompasses. They are science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? I know that engineering may seem a bit vague, particularly for us in the Nigerian, setting, right? It may seem a bit vague, but I hope to also share more light on it as as one of the things that I want to do for this meeting. And I say that because I mean when you look at the curriculum, the Nigerian curriculum, right? Whether you practice the Nigerian curriculum um, in whatever school, urban, rural area, you don't see such subject as engineering, right? There are only a few that relate to it, either directly or indirectly. There are a few subjects that you can say are engine towards engineering, but in the entirety of the idea of engineering, we don't have such subjects, right? A few schools have been a bit proactive, right? I know of about two schools who offer STEM as a subject in addition to the many subjects that they also offered, right? So they offer mathematics as a core subject, they offer literacy, ICT, science, whether it's basic science, health science, whatever it is, right? They offer all of these things, but they still offer STEM as a subject, right? Some schools have decided to take that route, but in essence, you would, you know, you know, hardly would you find a school that offers engineering, right? Particularly whether it's the elementary level or the secondary level. So we are right on the fact that it encompasses these four subject areas, right? But another word that immediately jumps out is that interdisciplinary approach, right? Those words jump out for a reason, right? What do we mean by interdisciplinary approach, right? By that, we mean that it is combining the concept, not just the concept. It is not just combining the concept of these different subject areas. It is also combining the skills of these different subject areas. Now, interestingly, the goal of combining the concept of science, the concept of technology, the concept of engineering and mathematics is really to solve a problem that is real, right? And they aim to do this in an integrated manner, right? Let's integrate all of these four subjects, right? Let's integrate them and let's not just teach them in isolation, right? Let's integrate them and teach them as a whole, right? Um, Now, there are lots of reasons. And so you notice that in the explanation that I gave, I put clearly there that in context, right? We are studying this in context so that, you can make connections between not just schools, right? The problem you are solving with all of this knowledge and the skills, right? you can, relate it to your immediate community, right? For those who have gone beyond the schooling environment, you can apply this to your work, right? And at large, the global enterprise. And so you see that it's STEM is not just clamored for in schools, right? You see STEM is being clamored for even in the workplace, right? Workers or employers want to employ people with STEM skills, right? It's not a mistake. They are very deliberate about it, right? They are very deliberate about it. It's not a mistake. It's not just an add-on that you want to have to your name, right? The skills that he offers, right, is far-reaching in terms of what he has to offer that can benefit the world at large. Now, there are histories that I can begin to share as to how STEM came to the scene, right? I can begin to share all of those histories, but maybe let me just, if I can summarize it in one or two words, I would say that, or one or two sentences, I think I would say that the world at large realized at some point that we can no longer teach subject to kids in isolation. Before the world came to that realization, children in schools, whether primaries, tertiary, elementary or tertiary situations, where they were being schooled with a mindset, right? It was that industrialization, right? Where you didn't need people that were thinking, as it were. You just needed someone who could, graduate and who could operate this machine, right? The world was focused on production, right? Metals were being discovered, steel, mining, molding, and all of these things were being discovered. So we're focused a whole lot on production. So when required, during that period to see connections between the different subjects, we just needed you to go. If you're going to be good at math, be very good at math in your calculation, right? Right. Be very good with your calculation. We're going to need you, right? For some of, the things that we want to do, right? We want to make a new machine, industrial machine. We need those accurate calculations. We need to be able to plot the dimensions accurately, right? No one was really thinking about the fact that there would come a time where people would need to combine these two things or these three things or these four things together. Now, after that period, then came an era where there was now a need for this interdisciplinary approach where your knowledge in math and math alone, or your knowledge in technology and technology alone, or science and science alone, could no longer cater for the demands of the world, right? The world was becoming more advanced, right? We had churned out a lot of industrial machines. We began to see the impact on our society. We began to see the impact on our ecosystem, right? So people then began to have need of people who are not only skilled in one area, who can also balance whatever area they have mastered. They can balance it with considerations of other fields of knowledge, right? For example, in engineering, right? There was this monumental breakthrough of bridges, right? So there are many kinds of bridges, string bridges. I know that even perhaps in Nigeria, yeah, I think in Lagos we may have some of those bridges that rely on string and tension and all of that. But there were many innovations that were coming out. Now, people needed to access several areas, not just a bridge to connect land and land, right? There was need to connect, land over land. There was now need to connect land over seas, right? And considerations started cropping up as to, okay, if we're going to run a bridge through here, what happens to the biodiversity life that we are going to destroy? What are the implications, right? People in that field started to speak up that, okay, you are doing more damage. If you are going to go all bridges, if you are going to go all construction, you want to build estates, right? You are also doing damage to the ecosystem at large, right? So you needed someone who is not just skilled in engineering, who can come up with those structures, right? You needed someone who can apply the concept of, for example, force and motion, right? In building bridges, right? If you want to take now, force and motion would bring the science aspect into it. Someone who can take into consideration all of these nitty-gritties, right? Not only do you need someone who knows about force and motion, but you also need the person to be fluent with the calculations, how to calculate speed, what would be the mileage, the speed limit on this bridge, based on the materials that we have used. Material and all of these things also would also fall under the science aspect of it. So in one breath, you need someone who can not just think about the engineering aspect, you need someone who can see connections, how that science also has a role to play, right? Not only are we thinking about the materials, we're thinking about the biodiversity, the laws that we need to either break, the laws that we need to either break or mold to fit or to suit our own desires. And then there comes technology, right? Now that you have these wonderful ideas, you may now want to start thinking, can we simulate it first before actually putting it into practice, right? Can we simulate it before putting it into practice, right? This is just one of the reasons or one of the justification that then began to give STEM the leverage. And then people now started thinking that, okay, what's the best way to get workers who are this knowledgeable, who can see all of this connection? And the best way to infuse it was to go through the educational system, right? Introduce this to young ones, learners, whether, and for those who are no longer young, maybe in the tertiary institution, this was also introduced to them. So that's what we mean when we talk about that interdisciplinary approach, right? In one project, you can begin to see connections, how that this guy is needed as much as this other guy is needed, right? This guy is needed as much as that other guy is needed, right? It doesn't only end. That was just one example, right? If you are looking, for example, at one of the pressing things that we need in today's world is not just building homes, right? Advanced countries, developed countries are also thinking about how to design energy efficient homes, right? I know that Dubai has put forward a few ideas, energy efficient homes, right? This will require knowledge of, right? Science, you're going to need technology, the tools and softwares to design these homes, right? Engineering, how do we build the structure? The math, how do we the measure, right? As opposed to just learning theory, right? As opposed to just learning in isolation, all of these things. I hope I've been able to stress in detail why STEM is what it is, right? Both the interdisciplinary approach and we allow students to apply that knowledge, right? That knowledge, interconnected knowledge, not just in isolation within their local environment and the global world at large. Let me see if there are comments already. Questions, comment. All right, great. None for now. STEM is an acronym that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. With the inclusion of and innovation, right? Thank you so much for that, Mr. Olujimi. All right. Now, if you follow that explanation thoroughly, right? If we are going to apply STEM, right? We know that STEM has to do with real world problems. A better way to teach STEM or practice STEM, what better way is there than to practice learning methodology, PBL, right? For short, PBL in full, project-based learning, right? This is not inquiry-based learning or any kind of methodology that you may have heard. I find advice, I let them know that start learning PBL. PBL is the future. Many schools are adopting it, and I take cues sometimes, right? I take cue a lot of time from statistics. If I see that lots of schools are adopting this method of teaching, then I mean, it's an indication that the world is going to tilt. As a matter of fact, the world is tilting towards PBL, because another reason is that the world is changing so fast. In case we are not aware, right? Mr. Samil Karim has his hand up. Let me, just before I start talking about project-based learning, let me take a pause and allow Mr. Samir to ask his question. Mr. Samir, if you can hear us, you can please unmute your mic and let's hear.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Sorry, I joined a bit late, but I don't know whether I have missed a lot. But on my screen, I have interdisciplinary approach and a project-based learning, which just pop up. So actually, I didn't follow up properly. So I want to know, I know the thing, but what are the sub-team we are really discussing about here? I thought maybe we have something like maybe a short list that we show the drop down of, so that I'll be able to follow right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Samuel. So I had gone through earlier, I think that was the part that you missed. I had gone through quickly some of the things we'll be looking at today. If you look at your screen, you can see I'll just quickly pull that reference up. I said we're going to start with an introduction to STEM and PBL, which is what we are dealing with. We've dealt with STEM. I was just about to go to PBL, right? And then we'll look at the importance of STEM, right? Just after that. And then after that, for the next 2 days, we may not be able to go into details today, but we are going to, for the next 2 days, look at the pillars, the core pillars in themselves, right? What does science entail? What does technology entail? What does engineering entail? What does math entail, right? And not only are we going to be looking at these pillars in themselves, we'll also be looking at the skills developed through them. This is one of the questions that may eventually come up also, right? People are thinking that, okay, I'm talking about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I'm an history teacher, or I teach English, I teach literacy, I teach geography. How does this help me, right? How is this useful to me, right? So those are some of the things that we'll also cover when we talk about the skills that you develop from STEM. And then we'll look at how to integrate PBL and STEM, and of course, the benefits of project-based learning. That is as much as you've missed so far. Other than that, I've just explained what STEM is, and I've given a breakdown when we say it's an interdisciplinary approach. I've also shared a few examples, 2 examples. One was to buttress the connection between them, right? A single problem can be broken down to see connections between them. And 2 was the real world problems, right? Solving real world problems, right? Which I also did justice to. In essence, I may just as well throw this in. That interdisciplinary approach simply means that students don't only learn the content of the subject, right? but they also develop, key skills, right? They develop key skills alongside, right? And these key skills are essential because the world is becoming, the issues that we are facing in today's world are now even much more complex than the era before now, right? And I'm trying not to use the word, the scary part, but the concern, yeah, I think that's a better word. The concern is that not only is the world changing, it is changing at a very fast pace. I would even dare to say that a pace that we have not seen before now, right? Transitioning from the different eras that we had before now took a bit of time. But where we found ourselves in today's world is that we are transitioning into another era, but it is happening extremely fast, right? It is happening extremely fast. Um, an example I would give is this. So in the last 1 or 2 weeks, if you've been paying attention, um, the world has witnessed um, ground-breaking, um, mind-blowing improvements, milestones. We've achieved milestones, right? For example, Elon Musk did a number of amazing things in this past 1 or 2 weeks. One of them I'll make a video about very soon. It should come out in a few days' time, just about next week, because it applies to teachers, right? So he has launched his humanoid robotics company, right? So he's moving Tesla, which is his car industry, just a little bit beyond cars and now to include robotics, right? Now, this should bring to mind the iRobot movies that you have watched in many, many years ago. It's not too different from what he's doing. Remember that these machines are going to be powered by AI. They are fully autonomous, right? He's not planning to ship these robots into the market till about next year, but he has just shown us. And in the meeting, the showcase that was held, we had robots that could maintain conversation, recognize your faces, that were even serving drinks. I mean, if you go online, just search for Optimus. That's the name of the robot, right? You're going to find amazing videos. In the documentary that was done particularly for this robot and this new product of his, there was something that he said that was striking. He said these robots are made to help you do everything, particularly, as a matter of fact, the first thing he mentioned was teaching. Now, this is the part that should get the attention of teachers, right? Because there's a lot of back and forth between educators as to whether AI or robotics will replace teaching or replace humans and all of that, right? Don't let me share my own side yet, but I would just advise that these are the times where teachers need to up their game, right? You need to up your game, right? And that's just one of the many things that is done, right? In addition to that, he also, released or launched his robotic taxi company, right? Self-driving robotic cars, right? His competition will be Uber, right? He's going to throw them off the market very soon, right? There will be no more jobs for the Uber drivers in a few years from now, right? It's strengthening our own jobs too as educators, right? Alongside other things. It's not just himself. There are other companies who have made perhaps AI glasses, right? You can just look at an object, maybe a broken TV, and talk to an AI and tell you're looking at that broken TV and you're asking the broken TV, how do I fix this? Or a plant that is dying and you're asking, okay, what's wrong with this plant? And then the glass will give you feedback, telling you, okay, the plant is suffering from iron deficiency just by looking at it, right? That threatens our own industry also, and so on and so forth, right? So, real world applications, in essence, is the reason why we are training these kids, right? The world that they are going to face will be complex, right? I can guarantee you, no teacher, no statistics really can give you a feedback as to what the next 60, 20, 30 years will be. Every child in primary school now will probably get to the workplace in the next, say, 15 years, right? Let's give or take 15, maybe 20 years maximum, right? We cannot tell what that 20 years would be like for them. The best we can do is to infuse them with these skills that can allow them think in this, in this line, right? If you are still teaching your mathematics just by teaching mathematics concepts, your calculation 1+1, sorry to say, but you are not doing those children, justice, right? I think I've overflogged that. Let me just quickly add on to project-based learning. Where does project-based learning come in? If you agree that STEM deals with real-world problems, right? Then the best way to solve real-world problem is to do it through project-based learning. The best methodology out there that tackles real-world problems is the project-based learning methodology, right? It is the most efficient, right? When it comes to student learning, right? When it comes to hands-on learning, project-based learning nails it spot on, right? Nails it spot on. It emphasizes collaboration. We'll still see when we get to project-based learning, critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, right? It makes, and all of these I've mentioned, they are key parts of the modern educational reforms that are happening. The modern educational reforms. If you are teaching your class and you don't find collaboration, critical thinking, your student doing all of these things, solving problems. And the problem solving I'm talking about now is not just the exercises that you give to them, the classwork that you give to them, as good as those things are. Real world problems is what I am referring to, right? Then you need to up your game, right? Now, project-based learning is not something new. It's been there, right, somewhere in the past, early 20th century, maybe late 19th, earliest century, right? At least the first job, first proper work that we did see was from the late 19th, early 20th century, right? John Dewey. Some of us that are education students, we may probably remember, some of these philosophers and educators, that came up with this amazing theory, right? His own theory was experiential learning. That's children, people will learn by experience, learning by doing. If you ever heard any teacher talk about that, that's the origin, right? Learning by doing, right? Learning by doing, right? And he wasn't just emphasizing learning by doing. It was emphasizing the fact that you are not learning by doing just anything, right? You are learning by doing things that will help you for life, things that will prepare you for life, develop your ability for life, right? For life, right? Those were some of the things that he started nailing on, right? Only that during that time, you are going to work in an industry, right? So some there wasn't that interdisciplinary connection at that period, right? You are only learning what you will go and do in the future, right? So at that period, if you wanted to become a musician or do all of these creative things, you will probably be discouraged, right? Because those were not the people that were topping the society, right? People that were topping the society were the industrial people, the miners, the people that could, mine all of these things, mold them, steel, and all of those things, right? And down the years to the late 20th century, that's where, PBL really sort of had like a resurgence when people decided to take that work, right? Take that work from either some of his students that he had trained. I know that it was one of his students that brought up the project method, right? This thing that we call project, doing project in schools, right? The very first person who had suggested that method of learning learned also from that man, John, right? And so that's PBL, right? In a nutshell. Um, Is this is there something I haven't mentioned yet? Okay, so maybe let me just say that um, project-based learning gives your child uh, live experience, real experience, not made up experience, right? Real experience, right? Um, I mean, when you ask a child to make a project, there are just about a handful of things that the child will most likely learn or not learn, right? Because you already know the outcome of that project and so on and so forth. So it's sort of caged, right? But in project-based learning, sometimes kids take on problems that even you as a teacher may probably would have never envisioned. And through the process of project-based learning, sometimes that the paths that you take to the outcome, the process that gets you to the outcome is somewhat diverse, right? So you never can tell the experiences that you will meet on the way, right? I would even go as far as sometimes you may even hit rock bottom, but that's part of the experience. Sometimes students need to learn that they need to learn to fail, right? They need to learn to fail, right? The failure is not the goal you are trying to teach them, but they should also get the experience that sometimes you set out to do to change the world. It may not work as you want it to, but now that it hasn't worked the way this project-based learning block that we are carrying out did not turn out the way we wanted, can we improvise? Can we reflect? Okay, so what have we gained so far? What have we learned so far? As a matter of fact, you will find out that a project-based learning showcase may even be you showcasing what you tried that did not work. And so your students are meeting with the audience, the public, letting them know that we came up with this idea. This was the problem we set out to solve, right? These were the number of solutions that we came up with. We've tried them, these three solutions. We know firsthand that these solutions did not work based on our approach to the problem, right? I'm saying that now, I'm actually getting a lot of inspirations, right? Because I don't, that's something perhaps I've not done, right? I've had students, we've hit rock bottom several times, but I've not just pivoted towards making my project base, my presentation also capture or should be solely based on what you tried that did not work, because that's useful knowledge, right? And somewhere in my head, it's giving me the vibe that the student would even appreciate failing better, right? Imagine the person who came up with the light bulb, as simple as that, invention was. I mean, we hear the story every now and then, but it doesn't sink a whole lot with us that how that man failed several times, and each time he would fail, right? He was quoted to have said, "Or I didn't fail. All I just learned is a way that it would not work. I learned one more way where what I'm trying would not work." That perseverance, right? And if you teach your student growth mindset, which is another topic on its own, right? Your students should, be able to handle all of these rock bottom better, right? There are a few misconceptions about project-based learning. When we get there, you will see them come up again. Some teachers would have the disposition that, oh, project-based learning can be difficult to implement, right? Maybe time constraints, resources constraints, project management constraints. How do I infuse it with my curriculum constraints and all of those things? And that's why we're in this training. So you're going to learn how to effectively, walk through all of these, challenges as the case may be. Now, let me end the exposé on project-based learning on these notes. Majority of us here, you will probably follow Finland, right? Finland is known to have the most progressive education, right? not just by popular opinion, by also personal research, right? By personal research, Finland has a wonderful educational system. And I would advise us here to maybe take a look at it, maybe watch a few videos here and there, get to learn how Finland operates their educational system, what are the things that they do, the extra add-ons that they've been able to infuse here and there. And you'll be amazed at what Finland is doing, right? Now, I've mentioned Finland because they have deliberately infused PBL in their system, their educational system. They promote it. It's a part of their national curriculum, right? Maybe that's why they are doing so well, right? Maybe that's why they are doing so well. I mean, test scores are amazing. The outcome of the student that they produce, fantastic, right? They encourage students to take ownership of their learning, right? Take ownership, right? If you're not too familiar with Finland, another good justification, United States, many American schools, right? Many American schools have embraced. Many American schools are still embracing, right? They are still embracing. As a matter of fact, those schools that have embraced are trying to figure out how to infuse the next generation, um, um, science core, what's the name to their curriculum, right? I can begin to mention. You can take a look at Singapore, Australia, Canada. I mean, all of these curriculums, they emphasize for us the need for project-based learning. And if you notice, all of these countries that I've mentioned, right, they are countries that are leading. So if this is what they are investing their time, energy, strength to, that should be for us an indication that perhaps that's how they are getting the results that they are getting, right? That's how they are getting and driving the result that they are. So if I want to see that change in my school, in my community, I think I should be thinking also in this line. Okay. In summary, all I'm saying for PBL is that it's a transformative method of teaching, right? It's going to transform a lot of things, even for you as a teacher, a mind shift, right? For you, because you realize that you should truly no longer be the focus of any learning, right? Right. The focus should be the student, right? Let them explore hands-on, right? And also the fact that it is gaining global traction for its ability to foster essential life skills. I'm going to sum it up in that one word. Now, let's look at why STEM is important, right? Why is STEM important? Why is STEM important? Again, for the participants who I may have shared a few. I'm going to maybe go even deeper now, right? With several examples as to why STEM is important. But there are a few that I've tried to summarize this under, right? Why STEM is important. Why are you here? Right? Why am I in this STEM meeting? Now, there are a few reasons why STEM is important. So let's look at the global significance, right? The global significance of the importance of STEM, right? Global significance, global significance. Now, STEM skills are essential in this 21st century, right? Need I say more about that, right? That's because it's driving innovation, economic growth, and it is addressing global challenges. It is addressing global challenges. Um, it is addressing global challenges, right? Global challenges, for example, climate change, right? How do you deal with climate change without STEM professionals, students who are literate in STEM, whether girls or boys, right? If you look at some of the people who are invited to to these global meetings. They are people who are informed in STEM, because if you look at the solutions that they prefer, they are solutions that cut across all of these things, all of these subject areas that we have mentioned. It's not just a solution that the tech industry can solve. They can just write a program and solve. No. Right? Mitigating climate change, conserving biodiversity, um, emerging technologies, right? And so you have, for example, again, another example from Elon Musk with one of his companies, um, um, where they are planning to infuse or implant an AI chip, right, in in the brains of humans, right? They cut off your skull through meticulous surgeries. They implant a chip, about 24 strings, micro operation, has to be done with precision machines and all of that. They implant it, and the goal um, is not just to improve the um, human survival or human efficiency. Um, the goal is also to be able to help people. For example, take for example someone who is paralyzed, right? If you are able, if it goes well, I mean that means that someone who is paralyzed, can have all the senses, restored again. That control over his, other bodies, other organs restored again, right? Because you can use that chip to reconnect, damage or fix tissues that are damaged, and so on and so forth. But aside from the brilliance in that approach, right? We have people who started fighting, when do we get to the point where we can now start using human test subjects? And then you had people in medicine looking at the implications. You had people who are looking at the social aspect, right? How does the world, what would the world become if every single human being is implanted with chips, right? Again, I'm mentioning all of this because I'm trying to zero in down on the global significance, right? How, the knowledge of STEM, right, is very important, right? You never can tell, right? Healthcare innovations, right? When COVID-19 came and vanished, right? STEM played a crucial role in improving global health outcomes, right? Um, and so on and so forth. I mean, you can keep going on and 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 on, right? So there's a global significance for STEM. Um, uh, if you allow me one or 1 minute, I believe. Um, I just want to quickly readjust my screens again. My second monitor just went out, so just allow me quickly adjust. So I'm being told that my screen sharing has stopped, so I'll just represent my screen. Please pardon that interruption. I think my screen should be up now on the current slide. Okay, I just need to present the Zoom meeting. Again, my sincere apologies. Okay, please, you can do well to please confirm if you can now see once again my screen. And just leave me message.
Yes, I can see the screen now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, so much. Right. Okay, so that does justice to the global significance, as the case may be, for STEM, right? Look at all of the benefits globally that the knowledge of STEM offers, right? The demand for STEM professionals is rapidly increasing also worldwide, right? Either as an educator with STEM skills or um, in whatever field that you may find yourself, right? That demand is growing. Now, let's bring this to the Nigerian context, right? I'm a Nigerian teacher, I'm a citizen of Nigeria. Why do I need STEM, right? It will interest you to know that the federal government, right, are also beginning, right, not just beginning, right, they've been doing it for a while now, but they are at the moment intensifying um, this STEM message to their populace, right? They're striving to develop that economy of people, individuals who are STEM literate, right? And that's because we are also trying to catch up with global demands, right? Global demands. One of the reasons why we were hit so bad, right? I mean, not as bad as maybe other places, but I mean, we had a country like ours where it took a while before people started coming up with this Ankara nose mask, right? But we couldn't even manufacture our own nose mask, which is bad, right? We had to import nose mask, right? Which is bad. With the centuries of graduates that we've churned out in many fields, right? It was to think that we couldn't have come up with that solution early wasn't too good, I would say. And some people will even argue, some will argue that, oh, the Ankara had more benefits. Some will argue that it did not, and so on and so forth. But I mean, that was then, that's up to them. But I'm just saying that if we had more people in that STEM field, people will have been able to quickly um, hit production line, right? Hit production line. It was later at the tail end, we started seeing people hitting production line with these sanitizing machines, right? That was made by locals here, right? I mean, just like a manufactured kiosk, hand sanitizer and things like that, like bowls, perhaps bowls to even wash, but they were local traditional ones, right? If we had had a good percentage of the populace that were STEM literate, that solution would have come up, quickly, right? And we wouldn't have had to wait the number of time or that we did, because people would immediately begin to see connection between, okay, what materials can we use? How can we come up with this solution? Cost, it has to also be cost effective, right? Um, and not only are they investing in it presently, it's going to also play a significant role in the future of for Nigeria, right? Statistics shows that over 50% of Nigerians graduates are in STEM-related fields, right? They may not have studied STEM in school, but they are in STEM-related fields, right? You can check the fact yourself. I mean, in STEM-related field presently, whether we like it or not. I mean, if we're doing STEAM in contrast, then maybe that percentage would even bump up a bit more, right? Because a whole lot are in that STEAM related fields, right? You may have friends just like I have, right, who have transitioned from what they did study in school. their major discipline are now doing, things in the field of STEM, right? So this comes with many benefits for you. The addition of STEM to your profile, to your CV, is not a waste, right? To call yourself a STEM or a STEAM instructor, educator is not a waste. It comes with a lot of benefits, benefits that I cannot even cover adequately in these presentations, right? In these presentations. Let me look at quickly the skills developed with STEM. And the moment I'm done with this, I'm going to allow us to have that networking session before we just wrap it up in a few minutes with the project base. I will delve into project base learning depending on time. We're trying not to overshoot the hour mark. And we are presently still in good time here. So please get ready, right? I would share a few tips as to how you can make the most of your the networking session, right? You're going to go out with a question, but you're also going to have the opportunity to network with yourselves. We'll do this across all our meetings, right? And again, I'm trying to drive home the fact that the people you have on this call are perhaps the greatest assets that you need, right? Again, you're looking at a life testimony. Myself, we just had that meeting and I already have people who are doing things together and who we also plan to do things with, right? And you never can tell, that network coverage just keeps growing. So don't be shy, right? Nothing that you are doing presently is too small, right? Again, another benefit of the networking session, you will find people that would inspire you, right? I was amazed at when we had educators who began to share what they were doing. You'll be inspired, right? Perhaps you're feeling tired that, okay, what can come out from this education, right? Make no mistakes about it. The teaching profession is also very lucrative. You'd be amazed. Very lucrative. Okay, so let's quickly look at the skills developed with STEM. And these skills will cut across whether or not your major subject area in your school presently is mathematics, science, technology, mathematics, science, engineering, or technology, right? Whether you are teaching history, social studies, geography, Greek science, whatever the case may be, right? These skills can go a long way to change the effectiveness of your lesson delivery. Now, I don't aim for it to be a cliche. These are things you probably have heard already. Critical thinking, right? Critical thinking. When you begin to practice STEM, what you are teaching to your student, right, is critical thinking. What you would be teaching to your student, that skill, right, is critical thinking, right? Not only are they going to be learning to analyze problems, but I love to emphasize the fact that it's not just in the analysis of problems, right? It's in the consideration of the multiple solutions, right? Multiple solutions that you may have to a problem, right? Multiple solutions that you may have to a problem. And when they consider these multiple solutions, they can then make informed decisions. So that's a very important skill that STEM teaches, right? Collaboration and communication, right? Collaboration through group projects and PBL, they will develop that teamwork and communication skills. These two things are important, right? Collaboration and communication, right? Let them learn to work together as a group or work together in groups. Let them learn to communicate. How do I communicate in a group? Those are things that you probably need to how do I put it? You probably need to maybe have maybe refresher classes with your students, right? How do you communicate? How do you present the ideas in your mind. One of the things that we love to teach the student is the sandwich method: positive, critical, positive. Always start with a positive comment about someone's work, someone's idea, or the idea that you have. Then critique. Critical means you can critique it. Now say what you think is wrong with that idea, right? Present it in a friendly manner, right? Be critical, and then end with a positive, always end with a positive note. Again, appreciate the person's efforts, and so on and so on and so forth, right? That will really go a long way in streamlining how your students communicate in the group that they have. Communication is also a big deal. We've had teachers who are concerned about, should this communication happen only in English? No, it doesn't have to happen in English. I mean, for myself, I don't mandate that my students have this communication in English. We are teaching in those rural areas, for example, let them communicate in the language that they want to, or that they can communicate in, right? Collaboration is also key. While you are teaching collaboration to your student, you also need to teach them empathy, right? Because there's no collaboration without empathy. Sometimes collaborating would mean that you also have to understand the viewpoint of the others in your group, right? Empathy. You need to also learn how to be a good team player. All of these things will come in when you teach STEM. They may not get it at the first run, but give yourself 2, 3, 4 weeks. The more that you do it, the more the student get used to it. And then you can begin to see that mind shift, right? That then translates to their attitude in school, in class. One of the questions that I asked in the conversation we had in the physical meeting was, there was one of us who had these brilliant ideas about how that we clamor, oh, students, but no one really talks about catering for the teachers and all of that. And I think one of the questions I had asked is, how do you measure these things? Right? How do you measure the effectiveness of the program, the solution that the person came up with? And the person's response was that you can measure it simply by giving a few months, looking at the students and looking at the outcome. This was how they were before. This is how they are now, right? Creativity and innovation. Encourage creativity, right? You can encourage creativity by allowing students to innovate and experiment with new ideas, right? I think I should mention this here that, see, you may be guilty of this. If you are, right, no pointing fingers, just, adjust as much as you can. Allow your students make mistakes, right? Because one of the things that happens to us as we grow up, whatever level your students find themselves, whether primary, secondary, as they are growing, they are more scared of making mistakes. Now, what I'm calling mistakes now is trying out new ideas. Someone's mic is unmuted. Please help us. What I'm calling mistakes now, your students are scared of. Just 1 second, let me see if I can locate that mic. All right. So what I call mistakes now are your students being scared to try out new things, right? Because they are worried about, oh, what you will say. Someone will laugh at me. They will laugh at me. No encouragement. This one, that one, here and there. Right? They are scared. And what that does is it begins to stifle them of the creativity that they were born with. There is no creativity without testing new grounds, right? I'm not saying failure is creativity. That's not what I'm saying, right? I'm saying that allow them test new grounds. It may sound silly, it may sound foolish, but allow them test new grounds, right? I'm privileged presently to see how that works out, right? If you have children around you, or you've seen a child playing, exploring the environment, they take two things perhaps a bottle and a bottle cap, right? And then they don't put it in the right order or in the right way, not intentional in any way, but you notice that they are trying to cover that bottle, right? It applies to many other things, many other materials, objects that they find around them. What are they trying to do, right? If you just immediately grab it away from them, right, you've deprived them of a learning opportunity. Allow them struggle with it a little longer, right? Allow them struggle with it a little longer. Same thing applies to these kids that you may have, teenagers. They are in that level where they are they want to explore, right? They want to explore with ideas. I mean, you only tell them that this is what crop rotation is. And someone is thinking beyond that and saying, can crop rotation be something else? You only tell them that this is what the skeletal system is. And someone is thinking, right, this thing, if I remove this part of the skeleton, will the body still function well? Or a project that you are working on, someone wants to go this route, right? In essence, I'm saying provide that environment where they are not scared to be wrong, right? That's all I'm saying, right? They are not scared to be wrong. Because if they are scared to be wrong, then the implication of that is that they will be less creative because they won't want to try something new. And that's what creativity is at the end of the day, right? Trying something new, something other than the usual, right? Let's do this in another way, in another fashion, right? And so on and so forth. Creativity and innovation, those are the skills that STEM also teaches to kids. And then lastly is problem solving, right? Problem solving, right? Students, STEM education emphasizes problem solving. I'm not going to overflog that. I've been saying that over and over and over again, right? It's not just learning this interdisciplinary, how that they are intertwined, but also the fact that you are learning them to be able to attend to the pressing needs of the community, to attend to the pressing needs of the general public, right? Nationally, locally, whatever the case may be, right? Don't let any lesson that you teach them be void. One of the project-based learning blocks that I'm currently running now with some of my students are local vendors, right? Local vendors, right? And so why did we go that route, right? It was obvious from the students' discussion and interaction that we had that they sense that the age where we are now, maybe they've had their parents, maybe WhatsApp group, they've seen people selling things on WhatsApp and things like that, right? And so they are postulating, thinking that if we have an increase in the number of local vendors that we have in the immediate community or in Lagos at large, it will go a long way to solving the issue of unemployment, right? And so they are coming up with creative ways, right? We have people that are building applications, right? Applications that are simulating online vendors, online stores, checking out systems that we have in maybe supermarkets and all of those things. And they are using the knowledge that they've had in the previous class about profit and loss, simple addition, subtraction, and all of those things. They are applying it. And well, we are eager to see the outcome at the end of the day. Let's see how far that they are going to push it now. So real world problem. I said that to address it to real world problem. And then lastly, hands-on learning, right? PBL gives a practical application of theoretical concepts depending on deepening understanding and retention. Now, that's a whole lot of information that I have shared so far, right? That's a whole lot of information that I've shared so far. I'm going to take questions now. Perhaps while you're, sending in your question, I would also do well um, to quickly set up and share us into the different groups, breakout groups, so that we can quickly attend to a question that will be given. Not only would you be attending to that question, you also take the time that you'll be allocated uh, to how do you call it, to also network, right? So please um, be ready for that. Your questions, if you have them, can begin to come in. Please feel free. You can raise your hand. You can type them if you want to, whichever is more convenient for you. Is great. I still have Mr. Samuel Karim. Your hands are up. I don't know if this was from the previous question you had asked or if this
Don't
is.
mind me. I don't know how to put my hands down. Oh. Even the hand has been paging me.
I see. I'll do that from here. Thank you so much. Okay. Um, okay, I see people are dropping in their name, email, on the chat section. All right, great. Great. Okay, so I would assume that everyone is fine with the explanation so far. All right, so here's the thing. Now, in a few seconds from now, we would all be assigned, taken automatically into um, our breakout rooms, right? We'll be taken into our breakout rooms, and this is what you're really going to be discussing, because when we do come back, we'll take I think about two groups, right? And in those groups, I would want you to share what your takeout from these breakout groups was. Now, this is what you're going to be discussing. You're going to be looking at everything we've said so far. Talked about STEM, we've talked about PBL, we've also talked about the importance, why STEM, right? We've talked about the why, and we've also talked about the skills that STEM has to offer, right? So you want to go into this room and sort of have like a recap, think through it, right? Preferably, you are doing this recap, not just, you are doing it as a self-reflection, right? This is where I am. Based on all of the things I've heard, when I go back, I know that this is what STEM is. These are my action points, right? These are my action points, my plans going forward, right? Um, those are really what you want to discuss. You can pick, please, when you get to these rooms, feel free to unmute your mic and discuss. Don't let it just be one person, right? We're only going to be there for about 5-6 minutes, right? We're only going to be there for about 5-6 minutes. Someone has asked, what's the main difference between STEM and STEAM? STEM and STEAM. Well, the difference between STEM and STEAM is the extra or is the inclusion of the arts. So while STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, right? Now, there are several justifications for the inclusion of the arts, right? There are several justifications for that inclusion. But perhaps if we come back and we have a bit more time, I'll do justice to that. But that's really the major difference. It's just an extra inclusion of, of, um, of arts into it. Mr. Ayobami has his hand up. Mr. Ayobami, can you please unmute your mic and ask your question, and then immediately I would have to send us to the breakout. Please go ahead, sir. Mr. Ayobami, I cannot hear you. I'm not sure if this is local to me. Perhaps if someone else can just help us unmute, I guess. That would help. Just so I know, you can leave me a comment in the comment section so that I know whether it's from my end or from Mr. Ayobami's end. Oh, he's not talking. All right, thank you. Okay, I think the network, because I believe he's dropped out of the call already. All right, thank you so much. All right, so it wasn't from my end then. Thank you so much. Mr. Ayobami, are you back? I mean, we cannot hear you. If it helps, if you don't mind, if it helps, you can also maybe leave the message in the comment section, and we'll do well to take it once we are back from this short break. All right, remember that we're going to have 7 minutes for the breakout session. So do well to, I think maybe let's do 10, right? Do well to, meet one another, ask people, what do you do, right? Share what you yourself do, right? To maximize the time while someone is talking before you can talk so that the room is not noisy and everyone can hear each other. You may want to consider maybe typing one or two things, right? This is not too different from, what you would have your students do in class. So have a feel of how how things are with your kids. All right, thank you, and I would open all rooms now. You can please join. I have Miss, I think Adekunle Temitope, you haven't joined the room yet. And also, I think this is Miss Esther Tosin. Yes. Please do well to join a room. Okay, let me just assign you. All right.